Good morning, and thank you for joining us here today for the Marriner S. Eccles Graduate Fellowship in Political Economy information session. My name is Dr. Matthew Pluster with the Graduate School Office of Fellowships and Benefits. And today we'll go over what this opportunity is and how to apply. Really quickly about the fellowship. This is created by Marriner S. Eccles, who was appointed as chairman of the Fed in 1935 and served as kind of the financial mastermind behind the modern banking system through the Great Depression, the New Deal, and the beginning of World War II. Under the leadership of Franklin D. Roosevelt. He restructured the nation's banking system into the form that we know today. His innovative advocacy of the compensatory finance was the cutting edge of the New Deal and preceded the theoretical work of John Maynard Keynes by several years. He was instrumental in setting the direction for the United States and the global economy after World War II, participating in the Bretton Woods Conference that established the post-war international monetary system, a keenly prospective observer of economic issues on both Wall Street and Main Street. He knew the importance of practical solutions to public policy problems. As a legacy, he established this graduate fellowship about 50 years ago to further the pursuit of excellent research on political economy that could be applied to public policy. And so that brings us here today. The graduate fellowship continues to have the support of the Marriner S. Eccles Foundation and the Eccles family. Fellowship is a dissertation completion fellowship. So this is kind of late career, those who will be entering the final stages of your research and writing. You receive a $25,000 stipend, which is provided to you half in fall, half in spring, so $12,500 fall, $12,500 spring. We cover your tuition and also provide subsidized health insurance. To be eligible, you must be a PhD or an LLM student, LLM in the College of Law, completing research related to political economy and public policy. And this can include, but is not limited to, banking, business, education, finance, humanities, legal studies, and social science. We'll get to the application later, but you will have a place in the application to state how you are defining political economy. So we're not providing for you a clear-cut definition and how that definition of political economy relates to your research. You must be able to complete your dissertation during the fellowship year, which is fall 2023, spring 2024, and able to devote time to the dissertation and research activities. So with this, there's limited employment with the fellowship. Because this is dissertation completion, this means that your coursework must be completed. You must have completed and passed your qualifying or comprehensive exams, and your research right now should already be underway so that you are in the final stages of writing during the fellowship year. Students are expected to forego assistantship employment during the fellowship year in order to focus on the scholarly activities. So those who serve as TAs or RAs, the expectation is for the most part that you would say you'd forego those opportunities to focus on the fellowship work. The request may be made by a student to have limited employment, which is no more than 5 hours a week. And in that process, you mentioned why that is beneficial for you to complete that employment. For most of our students with the Eccles Fellowship, that is 5 hours of research assistantship work that is highly related to their area of study. So the crossover is significant. The application contains several different components, and we'll go over these individually. Firstly, it's found on Academic Works, which is the University of Utah's centralized application system, www.utah.academicworks.com, and you will log in with your CIS, your credentials, so your unit and password. There's a general application for Academic Works that all students must complete before they can apply to specific opportunities. And of course, you want to apply to that because that's the gateway to applying for all sorts of aid, not just this opportunity. You'll upload your CV or your resume. You'll provide college transcripts. There are 2 letters of recommendation and a departmental letter of support. You'll provide a definition of political economy, your research prospectus, statement of professional goals and personal research qualifications, and then optionally the employment request for the employment during the fellowship year. So now to dive into each of these individual components. First is the general application, utah.academicworks.com. As I mentioned, this is the University of Utah's centralized application portal. So nearly, I believe every college now is on this platform. So if you are in the School of Business, if you're in the College of Humanities, College of Social and Behavioral Science, College of Education, what have you, your college's aid will be on this as well. So scholarships or fellowships that you're applying for through your department or your college will be there, as well as emergency funding through the University Office of Scholarships and Financial Aid, Women's Resource Center, LGBT Resource Center, Black Culture Center, and other student affairs or student organization scholarships are also through this portal. So it's very good to go through every year and make sure that you are completing this. As mentioned, there's the basic online application, or what we call the general application, that all students must complete. And then after that, you'll be able to apply for specific opportunities such as this. You just simply put Marriner Eccles Graduate Fellowship in the search box, and this will come up. You'll upload a copy of your CV or your resume. There's not a preferred format of should this be a CV or should this be a resume, whatever is relevant to you and your professional goals or what you are able to prepare. Make sure it's up to date. We receive, not just with this, but with other fellowships, we receive CVs that have not been updated in 4 years. So if you're including your CV or your resume as part of this or any fellowship or scholarship application, always make sure that it is up to date. That only helps you when you do so. College transcripts, this can be unofficial college transcripts from all the institutions you've attended. This can be unofficial transcript or a degree audit report. Should you be provided with a fellowship, should you be offered, you may be required to provide official transcripts, but that is rare. So unofficial transcripts, as far as your application goes, that is sufficient. You need 2 different sets of letters. The first are 2 letters of recommendation. One must be from your thesis or dissertation chair, and they should be able to speak to your project's progress and your completion timeline. So you'll talk about in your research prospectus, your timeline, and you hope to complete your dissertation here and defend, et cetera, et cetera. Your thesis or dissertation chair should corroborate that. They should speak to that as well. Your second letter should be from another individual to speak to your scholarship, your scholarly or leadership capabilities. This could be someone on your committee, another professor in the department, etc. Then you'll also need, separate from letters of recommendation, a department letter of support. This is separate from a letter of recommendation or a letter of reference. This is written by your department chair or director of grad studies. And this is where your department discusses their support for you, particularly resources and to continue your research and writing and reach the finish line in a reasonable amount of time, release from teaching assistantship responsibilities. Some departments choose to supplement. So there are some areas of campus that this $25,000 fellowship is supplemented with another $10,000 or $20,000 to reach the stipend level for final year dissertation PhD student in that particular area. And this is where your department can mention that as well. So you'll also upload, or you'll enter in a text box, your definition of political economy. As I mentioned, we're not going to give you a clear cut, here's how we as the committee define political economy. We're leaving this to you to see what lens you are defining this through. Some of you may be doing so from an economic point of view, from a business or finance point of view. Others perhaps from a philosophical or a sociological perspective. How are you in your discipline defining political economy? And then how does that relate to your particular research question? Then your research prospectus, which is 6 pages, double-spaced, 12-point font. So it's really not too extraneous. And given that you will be in your final year of dissertation, this is pretty much information you have already. You're just putting it together in a new document. This is where you'll mention the connection between political economy as you define it and your research, a description of the interdisciplinary aspect of your research. Describe how your research bridges theory to policy making decisions. Again, this is political economy and public policy where the two meet through whatever your area of research may be. And your anticipated timeline with milestones that will be achieved during the fellowship year, including your anticipated completion. Some things that our committee does like to see in this particular area here. Talk about public policy. How does this relate to public policy? Is this, for example, are we looking at banking reforms? That's political economy and public policy in a very pure sense. You might be from an education discipline and looking at how state and federal policies can impact the workforce and growing the workforce. So you'll want to make sure that you're discussing public policy directly in one way or another, whether it's from a philosophical or historical point of view, from a more direct banking or economic policy point of view, education policy, what have you, whatever's specific to your research. And also when it comes to your timeline with milestones, be sure to have milestones. For a lot of these fellowship applications, Eccles and otherwise, we read these timelines and it's complete this day. Well, that's really not a timeline, that's just an estimated completion. What does that fellowship year look like for you? Such as you'll have the first 3 chapters done by October, you'll have your findings section done by November, and you'll have your discussion and conclusion done by December. Those are milestones that you're planning for along the way. You may also be working on publishing. So if you are working on different articles you're submitting to different publications during that fellowship year, or you're anticipating that, please talk about that. Our committee really enjoys reading not just about your dissertation, but how you're applying that to other scholarly outlets such as scholarly journals as well. So feel free to include that there also. And of course, your defense is an important milestone to mention there as well. You'll include also in just a few words, 200 words or less, your professional goals. So what do you plan to do post completion of your PhD or LLM? Do you plan to go to industry? What does that look like for you? Do you plan to go into academia? What does that look like for you? On the academia side, does that mean going into an R1 research institution like the University of Utah? Does this mean you're going to go into a teaching university like a UVU or a Weber type of institution? And what do you plan on continuing with your research? What do you plan on teaching? Is there a particular angle of public economy that you plan to incorporate into that? Also, this is a good place to list any personal qualifications relative to your research project. So any accolades that you might have received, any unique experiences that you may have had that really position you well to be the one writing about this area, such as public policy internships or research in certain niche areas. This is a good place to talk about that in brief terms as well. And also here, the optional employment requests. Should you want or need to be completing a teaching assistantship concurrent to this or a research assistantship, this is where you'll mention why that is necessary for you to be continuing that. We do ask that our fellows limit their employment to about 5 hours a week of on-campus assistantship employment. And in your request, you'll explain why the experience is essential how this experience will not interfere with the fellowship and the goals of the fellowship, which is to provide you focus on your scholarly activities, and how the teaching and research experience will not exceed 5 hours, roughly 5 hours a week. Some writing tips for a successful application. Write clearly. Fellowship writing is not dissertation writing. It's also not creative essay writing. It's its own sort of animal. So write clearly, be pithy and succinct, only include what is necessary. I see a lot of essays out there for fellowships, and I have to ask the writer, how exactly is this necessary? Because it's relating to nothing else here, and it's not really adding to the conversation or the claim you're making. So include what is necessary and refrain from things that are not important or enriching to the application. Omit unnecessary language, particularly technical jargon. So again, this is not a dissertation. This is not a place for you to be talking in very technical, very academic terms relating to your niche area of research, but for you to be speaking more in general language so that someone not in your particular discipline will still be able to understand it very clearly. Use shorter words over longer, shorter and more general terms over complicated vocabulary, and make sure each sentence is purposeful and well written. Know your audience. Keep in mind who your reviewers will be. It will be donors and philanthropists. We will have representatives from all the eligible colleges. Some will be a dean, some will be a professor. As mentioned, there will be academics, there will be professors and researchers on the committee, but the likelihood that they are in your niche area of research is very, very minimal. So it needs to be something that, if let's say you're a philosopher, that the dean of the School of Business will understand very clearly without going into finite detail and technical language. Know what your audience is looking for. So public policy, political economy, and completion. How is this going to help you be successful as a scholar? And write in a way that makes it easy for the reader to get the information that they need to make a decision. So there's that persuasive element to this as well. Some weaknesses that we see commonly with this fellowship and fellowships in general is unorganized application statements, such as a research perspective or the various responses like the definition, political economy, or your goals that don't tell a clear story. So you have to be very clear and very direct. Dense writing that is too difficult to understand or is uninteresting. We don't need to be down in the minutia, but we need to have general clear ideas of what your goals and your aims are. Too much jargon is a huge weakness. It's really hard for us as scholars to just sometimes get over this because it makes it feel like we're really watering it down, but we're not. And failure to thoughtfully and clearly define the connection with political economy. So we're not saying that this has to be directly 100% your finite research question is political economy, but there needs to be this intersection where your research question is hitting political economy and public policy, and you need to write about that in a way that is clear. So that whoever reads this, they can say, okay, this philosophy dissertation, I can clearly see the connection to political economy, or this education policy research paper, I can see how this hits the political economy and economic elements and public policy elements here as well. Deadlines. Your deadline as a student is January 6th, 2023, and the letter deadline, so your letters of recommendation, your department letter of support, is 1 week later on January 13th. There are no exceptions. 11:59 on the 6th and the 13th is when everything cuts off. So plan ahead, plan the next few months, plan winter break around these deadlines, or incorporate these deadlines into your fall and your winter break plans to make sure that you are able to get everything that you need put together and that you're able to go through drafts and make sure that the research perspective, and the statements that you are submitting are best reflection of your research and you as a scholar. And as always, any questions that you might have about this or other fellowships, graduate fellowships, feel free to reach out to me, fellowships@gradschool.utah.edu. Okay, thank you so much for joining us here today. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.